Thank you, Senator Dorgan. I look forward to continuing our work on the jobs package. It's crucial, and small business is crucial. If you look at the facts are that small business sustain more than half of the nation's private sector jobs and have generated 64% of the new jobs over the last 15 years. Now, I know when all of you panelists who run your small businesses do your work, you don't think about that. You just think about your vision and your goals. But if you look at the big picture, imagine over the last 15 years, 64% of new jobs come from people like you. Recently in Oakland, I visited a company. I just wanted to give them a shout out. A Blue Bottle Coffee Company. This is a guy, lost his job. He always was fascinated with coffee. And he created this very special kind of coffee. And he didn't have much money. He had a little money. He put it into buying a cart, and he went to the farmer's market in the East Bay, and everyone loved this Blue Bottle coffee. So anyway, he goes to the SBA, he gets a loan, and now he's supporting a 9,000 square foot operation in an economically challenged area of Oakland, 50 jobs. Just the start of what I think is going to be, a very successful business if he has access to capital. And, we all share a certain sense of injustice here because I know that I voted to help Wall Street and I expected them to help Main Street. That was the point. Credit was frozen. Remember? We had, we had grown men crying in front of us. And I'll tell you literally, saying if we don't do this now, capitalism is really over. You can't have capitalism unless you have access to capital. So here we sit, and there you sit. Successful, great ideas, it's all working on the ground. And what has happened since we bailed out Wall Street? We have seen, as Senator Dorgan has shown us, a drop. My staff came up with this. Small businesses get 90% of their loans from banks, yet bank loans to small business have dropped more than 15% over the past year, more than 3 times the rate of decline in personal and real estate loans. So small business is bearing the brunt of the problem. That's why I'm so glad in the jobs package we're looking at small business. So I want to get to solutions. I'd ask unanimous consent to place the rest of my statement in the record. But I'm working very closely with 2 senators sitting here, Senator Merkley and Senator Landrieu, on 2 approaches. And I just wanted to get anyone who would like to respond. The bill that was introduced with Senator Merkley is the Bank on Our Communities Act. It would correct this imbalance of very few loans now going out to small business. And it would use TARP funds to support viable community banks. They'd have to prove they're viable on the condition that they restart the flow of business lending. We think this will help community banks raise private capital. Community banks didn't get anything really out of what we did. And it would increase their small business lending, and it would protect taxpayers by requiring a stress test, first of all. So since over 2/3 of small business loans are made by community banks, we estimate this legislation could create between 200,000 and 500,000 jobs. So I don't want anyone to say yes, no to every line of the legislation, but if you could give us a sense of whether you think this makes sense. Helping the community banks help community business. I'll start with you, Mr. Zandi.
Well, I think you put your finger on the key part of the problem, and that is that smaller banks are under severe financial pressure, and as such, they're not extending credit, and small businesses are one of their mainstays. So I think anything that can be done to help the banking system more broadly, and particularly the community banks, the smaller banks, would be helpful to addressing this particular issue. My own sense, though, is that the more effective, quicker way of helping would be to empower the SBA to make lending, in a sense, more direct. I mean, right now, the loan guarantee that the SBA provides is 90%. It was 80% before the stimulus package. It went to 90%. That increase was very effective in getting more SBA loans going. If you raise that temporarily, as I proposed, to 95 or 97.5%, I think that would make it much more attractive, not only to to the big banks, but also to these smaller community banks, that they would be able to take more risk and would take
Oh,
it.
so you're talking about the 7A loans?
The 7A loans,
Yeah,
yes.
because they have run out of money, which shows
Yes.
that, because we did put money in there through the STEM.
Yes.
So you like that. The reason I'm so excited to be working with Senator Merkley on this is I think we have mistreated the smaller community banks. And if they, in other words, it's two things that you do there, Senator, which is to say to the community banks, we don't want you to fail. You've got to start lending. We're not going to, but we have to do everything. In other words, we can't do one thing. We've got to fix the 7A. And the last point I'd make, and I'll stop, is that as Senator Landrieu's Small Business to Capital Act, Access to Capital Act, this is very important because you're right. I think it was Alicia who's pointed out that there's a cap on lending from SBA, and a lot of people are missing the boat because it's just not large enough. Anyway, I look forward to doing a lot more than I've said here, and I work with you.
Senator Boxer, if I could just follow up just with a quick comment, is that under the 7A as it stands today, it's supposed to be a 90-10 relationship. However, in our experience with the banks who are engaging us in conversations, they are saying, yes, it's supposed to be 90-10, but we're going to add our restrictions, plus we'd feel more comfortable if it were more 80-20 or 25-75. So even though you've put forth, great opportunities for small business like ours who need a lot more money than the average SBA loan between, say, $150,000 and $200,000. They're asking us for a lot more capital up front, and as my colleagues were talking about, basically turning over our entire life, our homes, everything to collateralize it, even though the SBA is collateralizing it. So we have a lot of issues, even when you put a good program out there, with individual banks taking their own poise and position on how to deliver it.
That's what happened to Mr. Matsunaga. I mean, they essentially
exactly
said to him, you put everything you've got on the line here,